Welcome in, cool kids. I am glad that we are all here together in 2026. This week's guest is Jeannie Duckworth. Now, Jeannie is the CEO of Blue Magnolia, and we are going to be talking about a very important topic, not only for us of the younger grandparent and grandparenting age, but also maybe our uncles, our aunts, our moms, our dads, people that we care about. The topic this week is going to be about senior living. So, we are going to be talking about what happens when you have an oh crap moment, and maybe there's a slip and fall, maybe there's some other kind of incident that happens where somebody needs to go into assisted living, whether that's permanently or temporary. And then we're definitely getting into talking about how to best plan for both your own aging process and where you want to be. And that could be a 55 and over community. That could be a very minimal assisted living situation, or it could be something that really helps you out both with your physical needs as well as maybe your medical conditions that you have going on. Before we get into this, what I want to do is remind you that I've got 30% off on all my polo shirts, all my hats, all my merchandise. So go to cool-grandpa.us, check out the shop that I've got, and everything there is 30% off. And that sale is going to continue until I think January 22nd is when I'm going to stop that sale. The other thing, too, if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you've learned a little bit more about how to be a more effective grandparent, I would love for you to go over to Buy Me a Coffee and then help support the program. And the way that you do that, I'll put a link into the show notes. There's also a link on my website. But essentially what that does is it takes in a $5 contribution, and then you can go higher if you want. But it really helps me to offset the cost for production. So a great way to support us is to go to Buy Me a Coffee. So without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Jeannie. Jenny, welcome into the Cool Grandpa podcast. I'm excited to have you on the program. This is going to be a really fun and I think informal conversation.
Yes, thank you, Greg, for having me. I'm really excited.
Now, I want to help the audience get to know what you do. And as part of that, I would love for you to talk to us about your background. What got you inspired to start working with seniors, especially senior living? And give us a little bit of that background.
Well, it goes back to when I was a little girl. My mother and grandmother owned a dog grooming salon, and most of our clients were seniors. And when I was a little girl, anywhere we went, if there was a senior in the room or kids, I would go sit with the seniors and talk with them for hours. My mom could not keep me away from them. Fast forward, I owned my own dog grooming business for a few years, and then I got severe arthritis in my hands and back from grooming dogs since I was 4 years old. And I went to work for a college, and then one of my college friends said, you're really good with seniors. I said, yes, I love them. She goes, well, I know of an opening for you. So I went to go work for an assisted living and memory care community, fell in love with it. And within the first month, I had 10 move-ins. And my executive director was like, what are you doing that's different than all of my other salespeople? I'm like, well, I actually listen, and I don't tell them what they want. I listen to what they want and what they need. And I did that for 3 years. And after that, I was approached by a referral agency, a very large one, to come work for them and in California. And for 9.5 years, I was with them. I love what I do. I help thousands of seniors every single year, but it was just missing something. So I love working with seniors. My husband even jokes that one day I'm going to leave him for a senior, but I told him, don't worry about it. In a year, we're technically seniors anyways, so he's golden.
That's an unusual story because most of the time it feels like people don't get into that kind of business until they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s. And you seem to be unique in that you got into it, it sounds like, in your 20s and very young.
Well, no, I actually started in my 40s. But when I owned my own dog grooming salon, I even did senior days where everybody would come get free haircuts for their dogs and cats. And I've always been drawn to them. And since I couldn't groom anymore, it just was a natural it's very natural for me, and I do anything and everything I can to help.
Gotcha. And what motivated you and your husband to open up your own referral business and strike out on your own?
Well, we noticed, well, we were helping to raise our grandson. My son is a single dad. So our grandson was living with us, and I wanted a better work life, family life balance. I'm one of those people that goes, goes, goes. And I noticed that I was working 7 days a week, sometimes as late as midnight and starting as early as 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm on call for the case managers at the hospitals and rehabs. And I just noticed that there was some things that we were missing in the company I was working for. If some of the seniors didn't have quote unquote the income that was needed, they were kind of, "Well, here's this resource and left to go." No, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that we were giving them a full circle amount of help that is needed because most of the time the families or the seniors are calling us because something has happened. And I wanted to make sure that we gave them the full picture of what is available to them. So we kind of started that way. And I wanted to just make sure that we bridged the gap and making sure that we're just not sending a referral just to send a referral. We're actually personalizing it every step of the way.
Okay, so it sounds like you wanted to take it a step further than just qualifying them based on income level and ability to pay what a year or more of care.
Right, because not every senior can afford senior living, and, it's very disheartening when you've been doing this as long as I've been doing this. It's been 15 and a half years now. It's disheartening when a company says, "Well, just give them, the Medi-Cal waiver program or the Medicaid waiver program," or in Tennessee, 10 care choices. It's different in every single state, and just be done with them, and I was like, "No, there's gotta be more," and I wanted to make sure that we were providing more instead of just sending them to the 40 or 50 communities in the town that they're in. I wanted to make sure that we really drilled down and were able to give them what is needed for their exact needs, not for, hey, let's just spray and pray. I wanted to make sure that we are actually assisting them the best way we can. And if we can't, I find somebody that can help.
Okay. And one thing that I'm going to kind of take a little bit of a left turn because we started talking about the financial side of things a little bit is the view on long-term care insurance. What has been some of your experience? Because I'm heading into that age group where people are starting to talk about like, hey, are you getting this? Or are you not getting this? What are you doing?
Yeah. Long-term care insurance is a must-have. Absolute must-have. I don't care if you're low income or a millionaire, it is a must-have. Oh, I live in California, so we're in the land of you're extremely rich or well-to-do, and then we've got our regular seniors that are making $1,200 a month. And I had one lady that had her long-term care insurance. She had it for over 40 years. Well, it had been bought and sold several times to companies. And she came in, this is when I was working in senior living. She came in and she said, "Well, I have $1 million policy, and they're telling me that I either have to move in now," which she didn't need it because she was still independent at 85 years old, extremely independent, or "They're only going to let me have 2 years." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. No, let's go ahead and look into this." So what we advised is let's tour some communities. Let's find one that's going to be the lowest cost option. You can come in for breakfast or dinner or, socialization. Don't lose that policy because they're trying to make you lose it. And it's a funny thing is she ended up signing the lease agreement. She came for dinner a few nights a week and did activities. And then within 6 months, she needed it and she's still in that community. And here we are 10 years later. So
Wow.
long-term care insurance is very much needed. I know it can get expensive, but when you have an adult child, who is most of the people that call me as the adult child versus the senior, they'll call me all worried, how's mom going to pay for it? They're only getting social security and they have no idea how much the social security is or what's being saved or what have you. So if there's a way to get long-term care insurance, I highly suggest doing it. I even have long-term care insurance, and we've been saving for our retirement ever since I've been in the industry. So I just wanted to make sure that if If I need it, it's there. So one of my father's own friends, he pays over $20,000 a month for memory care, no
Wow.
long-term care insurance, and the money's running out. And the problem is because they've paid so much for this lovely community. It's a gorgeous community, and his wife is very well taken care of. In 2 years, the money's going to run out. Then what's going to happen? Then they're going to have to go through whatever the state has to offer, and he's kicking himself wishing he had had long-term care insurance.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I can just imagine how disruptive that is. If one, when you have to move into a facility or want to move into a facility, and then two, as that money starts to run out, realizing that you're going to need to move into something else.
Right, because you've made friends and it's your home, and it's very challenging for the adult children and for the senior themselves, because each time you move, it causes anxiety and it can bring a whole gamut of health issues. So we want to make sure that we try and find the right fit for 'em from the very beginning. And one of the things with that is making sure that they have their finances in order, like long-term care insurance and some other resources that are available.
Sure. That makes perfect sense.
And there are plenty of resources.
That's good because I think sometimes it becomes confusing. We've all got auto insurances and we've got these things, and AAA hits us with stuff, and then AARP hits us with stuff and things
Mhm.
like that. A lot of times those end up in the circular because I just don't even bother looking at it because it
Right.
can feel overwhelming.
It is. It's very overwhelming, and a lot of times, again, the families are calling me in an emergency situation most often, and if they don't know what the finances are, at least if they know there's a long-term care insurance policy, that helps. And there some are as low as $45 a day. I had one resident that gets $650 a day, so it just depends on what insurance policy they get. And if you do $45 a day times 10 days, there's $450. And if the assisted living costs 4,500, that's 450. And then do the other, times it ends up working out for the better when you add it with the social security and so on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I do want to ask you about the name of the company is Blue Magnolia.
Yes.
And I know that has some special meaning for you. Can you talk to us about both the blue and the magnolia?
Okay. Our little grandson, his name is Aiden James, and he is 6 years old, soon to be seven. And his favorite color in the whole world is blue. And he tells me that probably no less than 10 times plus a day. Oh, nope, grandma, it's not blue. I don't want it. So we put the blue in front of magnolia, but magnolia trees are known for being resilient, long-lived. They're among the oldest flowering plants on earth, trees, and we believe that the adults that we're serving should have dignity and aging and be able to persevere just like the magnolia tree does, or the magnolia plant. We want them to persevere through the challenges of aging and help guide them through the journey of either aging in place or moving to a senior living community. And some of those magnolia trees are over 300 years old. And so just because we turn, 80 years old doesn't mean our life is over. Look at Dick Van Dyke. He's 100 years old and still dancing.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because there's no one way that people age. I know people my own age, I'm 55 going 56, and there's folks out there that are my age that I know that it seems like they're already 70, and then I meet people like you were talking about that are 95 pushing 100, and they're sharp as a tack, getting along on their own, doing whatever. And so it's hard to have that one size fits all approach to any of this.
Exactly, exactly. We all age differently. I mean, I've got friends that I even placed a senior that was 49 years old. It just depends on what genetics have to play a role and how we age. And it doesn't matter. You could be the healthiest person in the world, but when your body says, okay, we're aging, we need to start looking at some solutions. So yeah, it's different for everyone.
Now, I'd love for you to walk us through kind of a typical case when you do get that call, whether it's from the adult child or maybe it's somebody that's recognizing that they need some assistance in finding a facility. Is walk us through kind of how that approach happens.
They normally call me unless I'm in a hospital or rehab and the case manager has asked me to reach out, or the area agency on aging or the senior center has asked them to call me, or APS, Adult Protective Services. We work closely with them as well. They'll normally call me and I spend a good half hour to 45 minutes on the phone with them to get to know what their exact needs are. And everybody wants to go for the budget from the very beginning. I don't do that. I want to know exactly what is going on so that way I can see whether they're going to be a best fit for independent living, assisted living, memory care if they have Alzheimer's or dementia, if they need a residential care home, if they need respite care or home care. So we try and dive deep into what their needs are. We ask them what their typical day looks like. Are they having issues with walking, how they're eating, what some of their diagnoses are? We just really dig deep into that and see then after we've gotten to their acuity level and what they need in that piece of the apple, then we start in, okay, what are some of your hobbies, or what was mom's some of her hobbies? A lot of them will go, mom used to swing dance, but she's 85, she can't do that. It doesn't matter. Mom likes swing dancing. Let's figure out a way for mom to get back to swing dancing, even if it's in a wheelchair. We ask about their favorite foods, who their favorite people were, if they had any traumas when they were a child. So that way, the caregivers that are taking care of them in the community know about, hey, we don't just grab them. Oh, we're going to say, okay, Mary, now I'm going to touch you on the shoulder, because we don't know what past childhood traumas are. So I like to note all of that down. So when we look at a community, we want to make sure that the community is a right fit for that set of needs. Then when we're done speaking with them, then we'll do the budget question to see exactly what they can and can't afford, if they've planned for it, if they haven't. And then we do go over some of the resources that are available to them. Then once we've done that, we pick up the phone and we start calling the communities. In California, there's over 7,800 communities. In Tennessee, there's over 438. In Georgia, I can't remember my exact number, but there's quite a few in Georgia as well. And I don't want to send you 7,800 communities or 438 communities. I want to try and narrow it down to two or three that's going to be in your area that you're looking. Then if you've toured those communities and said, you know what, Jeannie, I kind of want this now, then we regroup and we rediscuss what they're looking for, and then we move forward with looking at a couple of more communities. But my job is not to overwhelm them, but to enhance what they're looking for.
Well, and what goes into your evaluation criteria of these facilities? Because there's facilities to me, it's almost like any kind of, I don't know, there's probably a bad analogy, but like car lots, right? You've got really good ones that are customer focused, that will listen to you, put you in the right vehicle. And then you've got ones that just want to move vehicles and it doesn't
Right.
matter what your needs are.
Exactly. Well, with the communities, no matter what state you're in, the communities going to want to do an assessment of your loved one or of the senior. If you're the senior in need, they're going to want to meet with you. They're going to want to look and see what your health and physical has been like with your history with your doctor. So they'll ask for that. They'll ask for your tuberculosis test. They're going to ask for a signed medication list. Then they'll ask for like an advance directive or a pulse, which lets them know what the life-saving procedures are for the loved one. But if you're walking in and you're feeling like you're in a used car lot, walk right back out. You're going to know if it's the right community for you or your loved one once you walk in. Are they greeting you? Are they walking up when you're doing the tour? Are other employees walking up and introducing themselves? Are there other seniors in the community that are smiling and happy and walking up to you and introducing themselves? Or is everybody kind of standoffish and just, if they do that, I'd turn around and walk out. We try to really, different seniors have different needs with their senior living needs. So say we have a patient that has dementia, but they have behaviors. Maybe they were in Vietnam or Korea and they have PTSD, and they have certain individuals that can bring things out in them, that can bring out behaviors. I had one gentleman, my nurse her father was in Korea or Vietnam. He was a POW for 3 years. When he ended up in the hospital, and she was a nurse in my own assisted living that I worked for, she would tell them, please, nobody that looks like they're Asian, because my dad was tortured for 3 years. Unfortunately, this man who was bedbound, they sent in a medical assistant, and he wasn't Asian, but he had the looks of being Asian. That gentleman attacked this bedbound man was fight or flight. So he attacked the MA thinking he was going to be tortured. So we try to really dig into what is going on, so we make sure we send them to the proper place. So if they have behaviors, I don't want to send them to a memory care that is going on field trips to Home Depot, and maybe they're going to Santa Cruz, or maybe they're going to Dollywood, or I want to make sure that we're giving them a community that is going to try and touch base on those behaviors to try and help. There's some communities that have psychiatrists that come and visit. They do some, it's not called programming, but redirection. So if they're having a behavior, maybe there's somebody that has a certain calming voice that can come near them, that can assist them. So we want to make sure that we're diving into that. I had another lady that was in my assisted living community in the memory care side, and her husband worked for the railroad, and my name tag says Duckworth, Jeannie Duckworth. It always has. And she was all of 4'8", and she would scale a 12-foot wall. And she was hitting and punching and kicking. I was the salesperson. They would call me and say, Jeannie, come here. And I'd come in there and I'd go, I'll call her Mary, which is my grandmother's name. Mary, what's going on? Is everything okay? And she'd be like, and then she'd see my name tag, Duckworth. We just had dinner with you last night. Oh, Charlie loves your husband. How is your husband doing? So it's about finding the right fit that's going to be able to handle what is going on. Not everybody's that extreme, but when it comes to Alzheimer's dementia, we want to make sure that we're really, really diving in and making sure that we're getting them what they're needing. For assisted living, the same thing. Maybe you've got a wife who needs care, but the husband has been taking care of her for 4 or 5 years, and now he needs a break, because those who care for those at home, they can become sick and things can happen. And we want to make sure that she can get her care, but he can go out and go golfing with his buddies, or have a nice dinner, or do a theater thing. So we want to make sure that we're diving in and making sure that it's cohesive for everyone.
That makes sense, especially the part of the caregiver. I know I've talked with a number of people about how strained backs and some of these things of just caring for loved ones at home, how some of that can occur, and then next thing you know, the caregiver is the one that needs care.
That needs care. And I've seen that happen. We just had, well, it was all over the news. If we look at, oh my goodness, now I'm going to draw a
The
blank.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman, exactly. 2 weeks that poor gentleman was still alive while his wife had passed away, and she was the one that was taking care of him. That's 2 weeks where he went without care. I had another senior in Tennessee, actually right there in Chattanooga, where the husband was the caretaker and he had passed away, and the son hadn't heard from them in 3 days. She was on the floor next to him, sitting there, and didn't know what was going on, and she didn't want to leave his side. She didn't know who he was anymore, but she knew she couldn't leave his side. So it's really important. I know a lot of times we want to stay home, but we also have to look at the big picture, because what happens if something happens? Because Gene Hackman's own wife was, what, 20 or 30 years younger than him, and it
Right.
still hit her. It can wear us down.
No, for sure. And I want to pivot over a little bit about talking about the compensation and paying. So how do people get in touch and work with you? And then how do the seniors pay for the services as well?
How they get in touch with me is they can call me, text me, email me, and I'll provide you all of my information for that. We don't have an 800 number because we are family owned and operated right now. Eventually, as we continue to grow, we'll eventually not, I mean, I only have 3 kids, so I can't can't always be family owned and operated, but they could always call, text, email. I'm available 7 days a week. Um, that's how you get a hold of me. As for pain, there's so many different sources. If you are a veteran, you can receive veterans aid and attendance. As of right now, as of December, and I know this is coming out in January, but the government hasn't released what the pay rates are going to be in January as of yet. So it normally goes up about 2.5% to 3%. But as of right now, an actual veteran can receive up to $2,358 a month to help pay for assisted living, memory care, residential care homes, or home care. The surviving spouse, if your loved one was a veteran and now they're since gone and you haven't remarried, the surviving spouse, the widow or widower, can receive up to $1,515 a month to help pay for senior living options. That's just one case. Another is long-term care insurance, which we spoke on. Another is pension. Some of the pensions have different Like my dad was an local operating engineer. He was union, so he was pension, but he paid $12 a month from the time he was 16. He's now 77. So he's still paying that $1,200 or $12 a month out of his union dues. He his union helps pay for part of when he needs assisted living. Back in the day, it was convalescent care when he first signed up for it, but not everybody needs convalescent care. So it's since changed to be towards assisted living and so on. If they are a registered Native American Indian, some of the tribes help pay for assisted living. Chantey tribe pays up to $5,000 a month. I believe Choctaw pays up to $2,500. Chickasaw pays up to $2,500. So the different tribes can help pay it as well. Also, if you have life insurance, my own grandmother had a life insurance policy, and you can sell off some of her life insurance to help pay for things. She had $1 million life insurance policy. Not everybody's is as large, but you can do that. I believe my parents' life insurance policy is $300,000. The typical funeral ranges between $20,000 and $30,000. So if you sell off a portion of it, it helps pay for the senior living options. Also, home equity, just other things like that. It just depends on what they signed for. But my biggest thing is finding my veterans and my registered Native American Indians. Last year alone, I helped 40 people that were registered Native American Indians that didn't even know that that benefit was there. One of the ladies I assisted, her own income was only $900 a month. She was Chichansi Indian. She is now living at a very nice community and is paying $4,500 a month, and the tribe contributes, to that, which is really great. They essentially pay for the entire thing because they pay up to $5,000. So that's one of the unknown things that is out there. But also, you could do a home equity life line of credit. Some people do the reverse mortgage. So you could do a reverse mortgage, right? But be careful with reverse mortgages, because some reverse mortgage companies can say, if you're out of the house for 60 days, we're now calling in that reverse mortgage, and the family can't do anything about it because their loved one's no longer living in the house. So there's a myriad of things. If they were teachers, California, or a fire department, or police officers, so on and so forth. There's CalPERS, STRS. There's different things that they didn't know that is available to them. So we try and help provide anything and everything that we can. So we'll go through a myriad of questions to ask. 1K, IRA, and so on.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking about how complex it is, because initially I think I'm coming into this without having had to go through any of these exercises with family members. Like, okay, here, to your point, here's your top three that meet your requirements. Pick one. Okay, we're going and we're done. Not the, hey, tell me about your background, and were you ever a union? Did you ever do this? Did you ever do? Define those dollars, because that makes such a big difference in the type of facility that you can get.
It really does. It really, really does. There's programs out there also. Here in California, they have like 3 different programs. There's CalAIM that helps pay for assisted living. They help bridge the gap. There's the Master Care program. They help bridge the gap. There's the Medi-Cal waiver program. That one's got about a 1 to 2 year wait list. It changes all the time. It has ebbs and flows. My son cracks up when I say that word. But it has ebbs and flows. So it's nice to know what is out there. In Tennessee, it's called 10 Care Choices. In Georgia, it's called something else. In Florida, it's called something else. So there are other options out there. California, we're behind the times, I believe, because I think they can only make about $1,300 a month in order to, or below, in order to get on the Medi-Cal waiver program, whereas CalAIM and the Master Care program can help bridge the gap if they're making a little bit more money. In Tennessee, they can make up to $2,900 and still get some assistance. So it just depends on the state. And we try and really dive deep into the state that they're looking in as well.
Okay. Okay. And besides the sitting down with somebody and listening to their circumstances and then helping to find a facility, how else during that transition does Blue Magnolia help these people that are moving into the facility, as well as the families, with the emotional and the change and just everything that changes?
It's hard Back in the day when I worked in assisted living, I would have referral agents like myself that would come in and say, well, Mary, I'm going to use that because it's just easier. And they would say, well, Mary needs this. Mary wants this. And I'd say, oh, Mary, well, what did you do? Oh, don't worry about that. Mary, you don't need to worry. This is what Mary needs. This is what Mary needs. And it would drive me insane to the point where I would say, can you please step outside so I can speak with Mary? Because this isn't going to be your home. It's Mary's choice and it's Mary's home. So I try to remind the families, this is mom's home. This is dad's home, grandpa's, aunt, uncle. Let's make sure that they're asking the right questions and that they're not just a car salesman, like you say. Let's make sure that they're asking the right questions, that they're trying to really personalize it to their loved one. They'll call me. I've received a call from one family. Well, how come you haven't sent me referrals yet? And I'm like, because I need to know your budget. I really need to know if there's Alzheimer's or dementia or if they have diabetes, because if they have diabetes, do they need insulin? Do they need this? I need to have these questions answered because I could be like other companies and just send you everybody in town. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we're giving you what is exactly needed. So we take those calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and try and check in with them. Even when they move into the community, we still follow up with them. We still follow up with the families 3 months, 6 months, and a year down the road because we want to make sure that they're still flourishing, happy, and healthy. Sometimes seniors want to move into an independent. No, I only want independent only. Well, now it's 3 years later and now they need assisted living. So they've got to get up and move it all over again. So we try and really counsel them and really see where they think things are going to go as they age further and further.
And it feeds into this next question I have, which is what are some of the biggest challenges and rewards that you've had that now that you've been doing this for well over a decade?
Okay. I'll do the challenges first. Challenges. Families don't communicate. That is one of my biggest challenges. Or I just want to see what the price range is now, but mom doesn't need it for 10 years. Well, the communities go up on price range every single year. So it's not going to do me any good or you any good to know that it's $3,000 a month at XYZ community now. And now you're calling me a year and a half later. And now that XYZ community is now $6,000 a month. So that's one of the biggest challenges. Brothers, sisters, siblings, they haven't connected with each other to discuss and make sure that it's in mom or dad's or aunt and uncle's or grandma and grandpa's best interest. And they haven't sat down with their loved one to see exactly what their loved one is going to need. And I'd like it to be all on the same page. It makes it much easier because I've had those phone calls where I've dealt with 13 family members on a conference call and they're all sending questions to me at the same time. So I've learned over the years, let's get those questions written down. Let's send them to me in an email and I'll address them individually. Some of the other challenges is the family just hasn't planned for it financially. And well, how come it's not paid for? Well, isn't Medicare going to pay for it? Isn't Medicaid going to pay for it? No, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. It's 99.9% of the time is going to be private pay only. Rewards is that's my favorite part when the family calls me and says, hey, mom's doing really good. She's no longer sitting in that recliner anymore. She's going out to theater with the friends and family that she's made at the community. Dad, who is just sitting there cranky all the time, he's met a couple of buddies that are also veterans, or there's woodworking. They're doing woodworking and they're doing that. I have one lady that was in a city and her husband had died, and 3 months later, then her son died. House wasn't in her name. It was in her son's name. It was in probate, and they didn't have a family trust or anything else like that. And the probate was going to take years. She went to go live at a Best Western. She was there for 3 weeks, and God bless that Best Western. I'm going to try and say this without crying. Those front desk people and the maids were bringing this lady breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And they called me and they're like, Jeannie, she's paying $3,000 a week for the type of service that she's getting from us. Can you help? And she was low income. It took myself, 2 home health agencies, 3 hospitals, everybody to gather together, me to go on the Facebook groups and the RCFE residential care facility groups to say, hey, I have a special circumstance. She has roughly, let's just say, 4,000 a month, but she's high level of care. How can we do this? So we all brainstormed and we were able to find a community, and she's still there. So those make my heart happy. Or I had a gentleman, and it's going to sound sad, but he was in the hospital for 3 months and he wanted to just go be somewhere that wasn't a hospital. and we knew he was on hospice. He and his family wanted a specific area, so I found something within 10 miles of the home. He went and lived there for 14 days until he passed. That family called me the day that he died and just cried and told me, "Oh my goodness, you gave my dad the best 14 days that he had had in a long time." And that to me touches my heart. That is more gratifying than anything, to know that he was able to pass happy versus being in the hospital with everything hooked up. And just so, to me, the families and the seniors, that is what gives it. That's better than payment all day long.
Absolutely. I can just imagine that the bittersweet of
Yes.
that story and that memory. I want to ask you a little bit too about the some of the trends that you're seeing, because right now I imagine we have a lot of the silent generation and the baby boomers that are heading into senior care, and then Generation X.
And then us. Yes. All right. Our
I hate
generation.
saying it. It's like, wait a second. We can't possibly be. And it's like, yeah, actually, some of us are in our 60s. Like,
Yeah. I turned 55 in March, and then I'm considered a senior. Um, some of the trends, a lot of them want to stay home, but they don't realize how expensive home care is. Home care can be very costly. Here in California, it can average from $34 an hour to $54 an hour. That's very expensive, especially if you've got somebody that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you can look at that versus assisted living, and you can move into assisted living for $4,500 a month. So a lot of the baby boomers and Gen Xers are wanting to stay home, but they're not realizing the cost of it. Uh, that can be that's the new trend. A lot of them, or my favorite thing, which is not my favorite. I like to, it's me being sarcastic. My friend knows a friend of a friend that can come take care of mom and dad. I had one lady that was a multimillionaire. She lived in Santa Cruz, and the community I was working at the time, this is, gosh, almost 16 years ago, the monthly rent was $1,600 a month. Within 6 months, she had less than $100,000 left to her name, because we're in this cellular age. Well, oh, send me money, send me money, send me money. And just that one really, really hurt me. And there was no family communication. They weren't checking in to see what was going on. And she wanted to stay home, but her home was foreclosed upon and all of that. So we need to start planning ahead of time and making sure that we can help our family out and help ourselves out. And it's great for the seniors to start going and looking now. A lot of them were, oh, I don't need it now. I don't need it now. But you know what? It doesn't hurt to go do a lunch at a community. Go join a couple of activities. Let me know what you liked about that. So when the time comes, I know what kind of community you are looking for, or your mom needs, or your grandfather needs. So let's start talking about this now. Let's not brush it under the rug. Let's bring it out to the open. Let's start having those discussions, so that way when the time comes, we know what you need. My parents, I have that discussion with them on a regular basis. I'm like, Mom, what do you want? Dad, what do you want? My dad is 77 and still races dirt bikes on the weekends. He bowls 4 days a week in leagues. And I mean, when he races motorcycles, he races motorcycles. They're dirt bikes. My mom has MS, and her happy place is bingo. So, and I ask them all the time, do you guys want to be in the same community? And they do not. My dad wants to be working and doing things, but where my mom's like, just as long as there's bingo, that's all I care about. So, yeah, so we
interesting.
tried to really make sure that and hopefully I answered that correctly.
Yeah, I think so. The other part of this too is I know, at least around where I am in North Georgia, it seems like there's a lot of 55 and older
Yes.
communities that seem like that might be a bridge between that being fully on your own, owning your own home, whether it's a big home, small home, before you need to go into assisted
Yes.
living or somewhere else.
For somebody like you and me, we're 55. Great. We don't have any health issues. But if you are 75 and you're wanting to move into a 55 plus community, I'm going to forewarn you, you're 75 and things are going to start to happen with our body. And we need to make sure that we've planned ahead for that. So places like Del Webb, great. I love 55 plus communities, but do you have a plan for when the 55 plus community doesn't happen? A lot of them love the great big retirement communities like they have in Florida, like their cities. I have a gentleman that's like, well, the one I live in now, there's 130,000 people. I'm like, what is that? He goes, well, it's like a little city. We have like 20 restaurants and this and that. And I want the same thing in Georgia. We're actually looking in Georgia and Tennessee. And I'm like, but that doesn't exist in Georgia and Tennessee. It's a Florida thing, you know. So we need to plan ahead. A lot of times there's CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities. I didn't speak on those, but those are a buy-in, and they can be a buy-in for 100,000 all the way up to $2 million. And do you want to buy in? Which I love the CCRCs if you have the funds to do so. But if you only have your $1 million that you have saved and you're doing an $800,000 buy-in, you're only leaving yourself $200,000 for if and when you need care. And the CCRCs, continuing care retirement communities, they require when you move in, you be independent. So you can't move into a continuing care retirement community and already need assisted living. That's not how it works. So we want to make sure we plan ahead for that. So I do like the 55 plus communities, but those are for normal, healthy, everyday people. And you know you're going to sell the house later and use that towards your care.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And Jeannie, I've had you on for a little while. Is there anything else about your care and the services that Blue Magnolia provide that I haven't asked you that you'd like to bring up?
Let's see. We are a little bit different. Like I said, we do not blind refer. So if you have a loved one that is needing senior living or you yourself do, we personally go onto the CCLD, the Department of Licensing, and we look at every single community. We look for any deficiencies and citations. We send that to every single family. Tennessee's a little bit different. It's not like California. It's not as readily available. In Tennessee, the Department of Licensing, you can only see if it had a recent deficiency. It will not list the entire year's deficiencies or previous years. I've seen some that have 5 years of deficiencies and you've got 45 deficiencies. I don't want to send my senior to that. So we do that. We tour the communities on a regular basis. We do not call them ahead of time. We do what we call a blind shop. So we come in and we check with them, see how things are going. We make notes based on feedback from the families. Also, we haven't talked about how I'm paid. So how I'm paid, we do partner with communities. Here in California, like I said, there's 7,800 and 438 in Tennessee. I can't partner with everybody. So am I just going to say, oh, you know, I'm only partner with 3. These are the 3 I'm going to send you. No, that is not how we work at Blue Magnolia Senior Living Advisors. We are 100% different than that. If we are not partnered with somebody, but I find a community and say it's Atlanta, right? And I only am partnered with 4 people. Well, maybe there's 150 communities. How fair is that to you if I only send you those 3 people that I'm partnered with? So we don't do that. We are senior centered, not profit centered. If we find a community that is the right fit for you, we're going to send it even if we're not partnered with them, regardless of whether we're going to get paid. So last month alone, we sent over 25 seniors and their loved ones to communities that we were not partnered with and we did not get paid for.
Wow.
So we fully believe in making sure the senior is taken care of. And assisted living and memory care is not the convalescent days. They are actual apartments. Some of them have full kitchens, living rooms, washers, dryers. They include your PG&E, your water, your garbage, your cable. Some include all of your meals for assisted living. For independent living, some do 1 meal, some do 3 meals, but it still includes most of those things. You're not paying property taxes. You're not having to pay your car insurance because they take them. They have transportation. So we want to make sure that we're doing everything that your loved one is needing, especially when we get to the point, well, dad was in a fender bender last week and he was in one a month ago. Well, it's time to have the talk with dad and let's find him a community that's going to take him the places he wants to go. I don't know what else. If it's got too many deficiencies or anything else like that, we mark them as do not refer, because we don't want to send anybody to a bad place. I do let the families know. I had one that wanted to be sent to a community that had 27 deficiencies. And I'm like, okay, I'm sending you this report. I cannot sway you one way or another, but because you're insisting on it, I will send that referral. But I had to let them know this is not one that I would normally work with because of the deficiencies or citations.
Gotcha. No, that makes sense. I mean, just let everybody have the information and then they've got to make the decision.
Right, right. And we're here to answer all the questions. If they're in memory care, do they have an egress system? Do they take pets? If the person still likes to cook, do they have the kitchens that they can cook in? Do they have clubs? I had one young lady, I think this is a really good story that you're going to like. She was a very well renowned artist and she had full blown dementia. They had already gone through another referral agency, and the referral agency had sent her to 50 memory cares. None of those memory cares were what this lady needed. And she did acrylic paints, and she's got pieces in museums. So I said, okay, what would be the ideal community? And we just dove into it. And she still paints on a daily basis. And she used to teach classes as well. So I had reached out to my communities. I found 3 of them. All 3 of them said, yes, we will take her. She is in one of the communities. She teaches. She's nonverbal, so she can't talk, but she teaches 3 days a week, and she teaches people from the outside. She teaches the memory care side, the independent living side, and also the assisted living side. They have their canvases, and she does that, and the family is ecstatic. So it's really important to make sure that we dive in and make sure that we find exactly what is going to keep them not just surviving. I don't want them to just survive. I want them to thrive. I want them to be happy, to feel loved. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. I love hearing those stories.
yes.
That's great. Well, because I think too, sometimes this whole process can seem very cold. And I think when emergencies and come up, sometimes the easiest thing is just to pick one and go.
Right.
And that's
And that's the worst possible thing to do.
exactly. And if you don't have anybody that throws the brakes out or puts the brakes on and says, whoa, 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 let's take a few days, let's take a few weeks, let's go through the process, figure out what the right spot is.
Right. Yeah. You have to do that because this is somebody's mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa. And if it's not a community that I would want for myself, because again, I'm a senior in just March, if it's not something that I want for myself or my parents, again, 2 different levels, right? My dad's motorcycle racing, my mom has MS, so she just wants to sit in her chair and play bingo. But I want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that they're happy, healthy, that they're thriving, that they're making friends, that it's something that they can live out the rest of their time with, making sure that they're not just stuck in the 4 walls. Everybody went through COVID, right? California was hit the worst with COVID because we were on lockdown for so long, but we were stuck in 4 walls, right? Well, your parents, your grandma, your grandpa are like that every single day. So let's find them something that, the grandbabies, we all live for our grandbabies, right? I'll do anything for my grandson. I fly back and forth every 6 to 8 weeks between California and Tennessee because I want to be with him. Let's make sure that we find a community that's going to help them flourish, that's going to make them loved, that the grandbabies can be there, that they can have birthday celebrations. I've had couples that met in assisted living and have weddings. It's just a great thing. I've had some that are snowbirds, like if they live in Washington and they want to go to California for 6 months and then fly back and forth, we do that. I mean, we just make sure that we're just trying to really give them what they are needing. It's not what I need or what you need, it's what they need, and we want to make sure that we give it to them.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome. And Jeannie, what's the best way that people can reach you? And I'll be sure to put this in the show notes as well.
Okay. So they could always call me. So I'm the CEO. My husband is the CFO, unpaid. That's okay. You could always call me. My cell phone, I have 2 cell phones. So I have my California one and Tennessee one. We do not have an 800 number yet, just because I feel like it's a little bit cold and I don't want them to think that I'm this great big corporation. No, my family and I are fighting for you with our own cell phones. So my cell phone, I have for the California, it's 209-640-2433. For Tennessee, it's 615-806-1973. But the easiest way to get a hold of me is to go to our webpage, which is www.bluemagsla, short for senior living advisor.com. So it's bluemagsla.com, or you could always just email me Jeannie, it's very simple. It's my first name at bluemagsla.com. And that's the best way. And if it's on the weekend and I don't answer, I normally will, but I will say, is this something that needs to happen today? Or is this something that can wait for Monday? Because we're trying to find the work life, family life balance. And the case managers and hospitals and rehabs, they call me constantly. Christmas Day last year, I placed 2 patients on Christmas Day from case
Wow.
managers, mom and dad. One gentleman was running down the street naked, and another lady, she was frail and the family hadn't seen her in 6 months. So I will always take your call, but I will also ask, is this an immediate emergency, or is this something that can wait until tomorrow morning or Monday morning? But I will always take your call. And if I don't answer, leave a message or email me and I will call you back, because I do work with over 1,500 case managers just here in California. In Tennessee, it's about 500. Georgia, I work with quite a few case managers as well. So we're building up, and we can place in any state throughout the United States. It's just a
Okay.
matter of us diving into it.
Well, that sounds awesome. And I'll be sure to put these phone numbers, emails, websites, all that into the show notes. So we know people are probably driving around or on the treadmill or whatever. So make it easy for everybody to find
Yes.
you. And
And let's find a place for those grandbabies, because we want our grandbabies we want to be the cool grandpa or the cool grandma, right? And even if
right.
we're in a senior living community, I'm going to tell you, if you've got grandbabies and they're coming to that senior living community, they don't have just one grandma or grandpa. They have 150 grandma and grandpas, and some of them don't get to see those grandbabies. So bring them on in. They love it. It brings life, exuberance.
Absolutely. And just beware of those grandbabies. Let them know ahead of time. Those cheeks are probably going to get pinched a little bit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And that's spoiled rotten, spoiled rotten. My first senior
Absolutely.
living community I worked in, I had 12 rum cakes because I found out that I like rum cake. My seniors made me 12 rum cakes for Christmas.
Holy cow.
Yes, yes. So they want to just continue living their life. They just need a little help.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the Cool Grandpa podcast. This has been really fun and very informative, and I really
Thank you.
appreciate how you've helped us out. So thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And you really are a cool grandpa. Thank you.
I really appreciate Jeannie coming on and talking to us about everything that we really need to be taking into account as we age as grandparents, but then also what we can do to help support and have some of those conversations that need to be had with those seniors in our lives. One of the big takeaways that I hope you get from this is that it's important to have conversations before you have an emergency. Jeannie was talking to us about her taking phone calls over Christmases and during holidays and weekends. But I think it really is important for us to have those conversations. Hey, when is it time for people to start to move into a ranch home? When is it time to move into a 55 and over community? When is it time to look for a really active senior community to move into? And it's better to have those discussions up front, know what the financial situations are, and then be able to have a plan in place. So I know I've been rambling as we close this up, but I'm just excited to have learned so much more information and to be better equipped to have these conversations with the seniors in my life. So I hope you got a lot out of this. Remember, best way to support the show, go to my shop on my website, check out the merchandise. Everything's 30% off until January 22nd. And then also you could go to buy me a coffee and just give me a $5 donation. I hope you have a fantastic 2026. And until next time, remember to stay cool.